Welcome to Father and Son Fishing. Today we're going to cover the best fishing tips and techniques to help you reel in the biggest catch in any lake you fish. Let's go. So grab your gear and let's dive right in. Okay, the first tip before you start fishing a new lake is you have to understand the lake structure. Fish are not randomly scattered throughout the lake. They prefer specific structures and cover. Usually 80% of the fish are usually found in about 20% of any given lake. Lots of factors go into this, like the level of oxygen, water clarity, running water in channels, and bait fish movement. You really have to target drop-offs, weed beds, points, and submerged structures like logs, fallen trees, timber, lily pads, brush piles, and rocks. So if you're out on a boat, you've got to be able to use your fish finder very effectively. It can help you identify all these structures and thus locate fish more effectively. You want to pay attention to the depth and water temperature as well, because different species have different preferences depending on the type of fish you're targeting there. Okay, tip 2 is to make sure that you're always choosing and using the right equipment and gear depending on what you're fishing for. So first up, let's talk about choosing the right equipment. Your choice of rod and reel can make a significant difference in what it allows you to be able to do out on the lake. So for lake fishing, you want to use a medium or medium heavy rod, typically is your best choice. You just have to pair it with a very good spinning reel that has sufficient line capacity to be able to be versatile for what you're fishing for. You want a reel that offers very smooth casting, has a good drag system, and a really smooth retrieval. And we feel the best all-around line for any type of fishing you're doing in fresh water is 20-pound braided line. That's because it's super strong and super sensitive, so you're going to be able to feel every strike in the water. Okay, the next most important factor to focus on is the time of day that you actually go fishing. Fish are generally more active during early morning hours at dawn, and then again at late evening just before dusk. During this time, the water is cooler, and the fish are more likely to be aggressively feeding on prey and bait fish. Midday times can usually be slower, especially in the heat of summer when the sun is beating down, because the fish are always on the move looking for cooler water with more oxygen. The fish are typically going to be in deeper water during the day and cover when the sun is out, and then back into the shallows in the evening to begin feeding again. Again, midday fishing can be a little bit slower, especially in the dead of summer, so you just have to adjust your fishing schedule accordingly so that you're always increasing your chances of catching more fish. Of course, fish are still going to be feeding all throughout the day. You just have to vary your bait choices and depths and retrieve speeds and presentations. Next, of course, is weather, because weather conditions can significantly play an impact on the fishing you're doing that day. You know that cloudy and overcast days are usually pretty good for fishing because fish are more likely to be near the surface. And rain can also be beneficial because it oxygenates the water and typically makes fish become a little bit more active. However, of course, you want to avoid fishing during storms for safety reasons and make sure you're never fishing in lightning, especially if you're out on an aluminum boat. Now, wind direction and strength matters as well, because wind can push bait fish towards the shore, which typically attracts larger feeding fish. So always want to position your cast into the wind or along the wind-blown shorelines for the best results, because nutrients and bait fish are going to be congregating in that area, and the fish that we're fishing for will not be far behind. That's for sure. Now, next up is understanding seasonal patterns, which are crucial to fishing success. Of course, fish's behavior changes along with the seasons. In spring, fish are often found more in shallow water as they prepare to spawn. And then in summer, they move into deeper, cooler water like we've talked about. Then in fall, they come back into the shallow areas to feed heavily before winter. And then winter, of course, can be a little bit more challenging because fish are typically found in the deeper water. So we just want to make sure that we are adjusting our fishing techniques and bait choices based on the season we're in. In spring and fall, typically we're going to use faster moving baits like crankbaits, spinnerbaits, and jerkbaits. And then in summer, we're going to slow down our presentation using soft plastics and live bait with steady retrieves and pauses. Okay, now for the good stuff, let's cover some specific techniques that we can use to catch fish more often, depending on what we're targeting. So one of the most effective techniques, especially for bass fishing, is the Texas rig, which is perfect for fishing in weedy areas with lots of cover where the big bass are going to be hiding out. And the real important draw here is that it keeps your bait weedless and is going to allow you to fish in the heaviest of cover without getting snagged. And that's likely how you're going to get your trophy in there. Another great technique for both largemouth and smallmouth bass and walleye is the drop shot rig, which is excellent for targeting fish that are suspended just off the bottom. What it does is gives your bait a very natural presentation, and it works really well and best with soft plastics, but you got to make sure that you match the plastic trailer to the color of your jig head, and you're matching the color of forage and bait fish and insects and bugs in that particular lake with every bait you're using. And last but not least is vertical jigging. Jigs are extremely versatile and can be used especially effectively in deeper water. If you're using a vertical motion to entice fish throughout the water column, you can just vary your speed until you find what works and what depth they're holding in. Okay, folks, thanks for watching. Please like this video, hit the subscribe button before you leave, and don't forget to enable your bell notifications so you never miss another great video coming your way.